Hey there, House here. Well, the first week of the NFL brought on some no-doubter outcomes as well as some incredible surprises. My predictions went pretty okay in my opinion, but they can always be better. I went 10-6 in the first week for a win percentage of 63%. So let's roll right into week 2, shall we? First up, we have tonight's game of the Washington football team versus the New York Giants. Washington played bad. Fitzpatrick couldn't get anything going, and then he got hurt. He's now currently on the IR and will miss the next 8 weeks, which turns our attention to Tyler Haneke, who will be starting for the Washington team for the time being. The Giants don't have a strong defense, and Barkley struggled to get going last week. It didn't help that he only got 11 touches, and I don't expect him to get many more tonight. But I'm still picking the Giants. Steelers versus the Raiders. I didn't give either team very much respect in week 1. The Raiders offense came out to play, and the Steelers defense stepped up huge. This, however, is a favorable matchup for the Steelers offense against the Raiders. I'm picking the Steelers. Eagles versus the Niners. Garoppolo played a lot better than anyone could have guessed. Same could be said about Jalen Hurts. The 49ers defense will offer more of a test for the young Hurts, but their offense just lost a running back for the rest of the year due to a knee injury. So I'm picking the Eagles. Browns versus the Texans. Tyrod Taylor played much better than anticipated, and the Browns offense stepped up huge against a tough Kansas City team and almost won. I'm picking the Browns here. I don't think Tyrod can duplicate that performance again. Jaguars versus the Broncos. Trevor Lawrence had some good and some bad moments in his debut. Unfortunately for him, their defense was non-existent last week. The Broncos played pretty well against the Giants, and I look for that defense to cause a couple more turnovers for Lawrence. I'm picking the Broncos. Panthers versus Saints. I guess you can say that Darnold won his revenge game against the Jets last week, even though the offense didn't look very good. The Saints, on the other hand, look like world beaters. Winston will be looking to maintain that stranglehold that he has on the starting job. I'm picking the Saints here. Colts versus Rams. The Colts offense struggled against a not-so-great Seahawks defense. Wentz was decent, but not great. The new-look Rams, however, looked like they want to throw the ball up and down the field. Stafford's debut for the team was one to remember. The Colts have a tough matchup against the Rams here. I'm picking the Rams. Dolphins versus Bills. The Bills looked pretty awful last week. There's no two ways about it. The defense was the only real bright spot for them. The Dolphins did just enough to win against a new-look Patriots team. For the Bills to have a bounce back here. Picking the Bills. Jets versus Patriots. This will be a matchup of rookie first-round draft picks. Both players looked not bad in their respective debuts. The Patriots just have a better defense right now, so I'm picking the Patriots. Bears versus the Bengals. The Bears had a season debut that showcased a lot of Dalton and a small sprinkling of Justin Fields, not to mention a bad defense. The Bengals worked their first week into an overtime matchup and pulled off an upset against the Vikings. Every week is a chance for more opportunity and growth for Justin Burrows. I'm going to pick the Bengals here. Buccaneers versus the Falcons. The Bucs looked like the Super Bowl champs on the offensive side of the ball. The defensive side, not so much. The Falcons look like they always do. A team with talented-sounding names that don't produce. I'm going to pick the Bucs here. Next, we have the Cardinals versus the Vikings. The Vikings look like a team that should play better than they actually do. They forced overtime and still managed to lose to the Bengals. The Cardinals trounced the Titans last week. Look for more of the same this week. I'm picking the Cardinals. Seahawks versus Titans. Titans could do not so much on either side of the ball. Derrick Henry was bottled up all game. The Seahawks did what they usually do. Play well under their leader Wilson, who usually finds a way to keep them in the game. I'm picking the Seahawks here. Next up, we have the Chargers versus the Cowboys. The Chargers had last week. Fortunately for them, they were playing the Washington football team that couldn't do much offensively. The Cowboys came out last week and played better than anyone would have thought against the Super Bowl champs. Their offense was firing on all cylinders in the passing game. The rush game, not so much. I look for Elliott to have a much more prominent role in this matchup. I'm picking the Cowboys. Ravens versus Chiefs. The Ravens played well for most of the game until they got conservative and allowed the Raiders to come back and win the game in overtime. The Chiefs had a hard-fought battle against the Browns that eventually saw them as winners. The Chiefs' offense will not be any easier to play against for the Ravens. I'm picking the Chiefs here. And lastly, we have the Packers versus the Lions. Nobody looked worse than the Packers in Week 1. Their offense was non-existent, and their defense was leveled by the Saints. The Lions were getting relatively worked over by the 49ers before they attempted a bit of a comeback of their own. You can't assume that the Packers will go 2 weeks without a touchdown. I'm picking the Packers. Well, there you have it. Those are my picks. Thank you for tuning into the House Report. If you agree or disagree with any of my picks, please leave your responses in the comments section. If you placed any wagers on my picks last week, hopefully you bet on the 10 winners that I selected. Remember, you win some and you'll lose some, but the house always wins.